So after my last video on how you can design a 3D printable chess pawn from scratch in TinkerCAD, I had a viewer reach out to me and ask if I could make a video about how to design a chess knight in TinkerCAD. So here's that video. First of all, we're going to be taking inspiration from this line drawing of a chess knight I found online. Just going to base our basic shape off of this, but I'm also going to be taking dimensions from a chess knight I have sitting right next to me. If you want to base yours off of a different image or a different knight, go ahead. The concepts are going to be exactly the same. So first, come to TinkerCAD and hit Create and then 3D Design. I'm not going to do that because I have a design, but that's how you would start if you did not have a design yet. So I'm going to come here, hit Tinker this in my case, and then if you just created a new one, go ahead and rename whatever your auto-generated name was to Knight. So the first thing we're going to do is we need to make this base shape. So I'm going to drag a revolve onto the work plane, and we're going to start with that. So I'm going to start with a line on the bottom, and we're going to make it about 15 millimeters long. You can see the dimension beneath the line. I want to make it 15 millimeters because I want the bottom diameter of our final knight to be 30, and when you revolve this, it will double. So then I'm going to go up 2 millimeters. I'm going to go up and over 3. You can use these little squares as dimension references, so you can see each square is a millimeter. And now I'm going to just add some points here, mostly because I'm going to curve this out later, and I want there to be reference points I can use so I don't have to add them later. And then I'm going to come over here, and we're going to go down. You can see that that's 12 millimeters. I probably want it a little bit more like 15 millimeters, 20 millimeters, so we'll change that later. So that's what we got. I'm going to bring this line up after I go into my edit mode. I'm just going to bring this line up so that I can check it, and we'll set it to be 15. Looks good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring this up to match, and we're going to come over, we're going to check how long it is, and I want it to be about 10 millimeters long. So yeah, so now we've got this whole transition to work with, and if we go back and look at our chess knight, we look that we've got this nice swoop shape right here after the bottom part. So we're going to try to do something like that. So we're going to come back to TinkerCAD, and maybe even move this down a little bit. Down and over. Yeah, I like that. So now we're going to select this point right here, and we're going to click our double handle curve option. And honestly, I want to curve out a little bit, so I'm going to bring our point down. First, I'm going to change my snap grade to 0.1, so I have a little bit more control over how things work. And I'm just going to mess with this. I could even come here and engage this one, try to make this one flat, but also curve here a little bit. Yeah, maybe flatten that out. Yeah, I'm starting to like how that looks. And then we don't have another point here to really do a whole bunch of interesting things with. We could just bring that in and call it a day, but I'm going to come here, I'm going to add another point, and then we're going to use that to do some more interesting curves. So I want this to transition pretty smoothly, but then I want there to be like an indent almost. So maybe something like that. Maybe bring it up a little bit more, and then make this a little bit smoother of a transition, and do that. Maybe make that a little longer so it applies. That's a weird transition, so we're going to bring that in. And of course, you can even come here and you can apply handles, although that looks really funky. So we're going to just try to smooth this craziness out a little bit. That should be good. And if you want this exactly flat, of course, you can come back to your 1 millimeter snap grid and just snap that so that it's flat with the other line. I want this to curve just a tad more, so I'm gonna try and get our curve to apply a little bit more naturally. Still not great, but it's better. How about that? Does that look any better? No. Okay. We're going back to our 1mm snap grid so I can make this cooperate with me like that. Yes, great. Okay. So now we're gonna look at it as a whole again. Just evaluate if we want to change anything. This height is about 15 millimeters, which is pretty comparable to the height that I'm measuring at the moment. And this is about 10, which again is pretty comparable. And then this is 15, which is comparable. And do we like the overall design? I do. Again, this is kind of a preference thing. Maybe you could bring this in a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting. But just mess with it until you like what you've come up with. And then once you're done designing and tweaking and changing how you want your night to look, then you come and you click the Finish Sketch button. So now you've got a shape. You can check its dimensions. You can do all the normal things you can do with a shape, but you can also go back and edit it later, just if you wanted to change something later. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to rough out the shape of the top bit of our knight. So on the knight I have next to me, it is about 10 millimeters wide. So I'm going to set this to 10 millimeters. It's about 25 millimeters in the other direction. We're going to go with 20, which it's already set at. And then the height, the total height of my knight is 55-ish millimeters. So since this is already 15, we're going to go 25 for the height. Maybe even 30. Let's go. I'm feeling 30, so we're going to go 30. Again, up to you. So now what we're going to do is we're going to select both these shapes. We're going to click the Align tool, and we're going to align in X and Y, not Z, X and Y. And so again, obviously this is not what we're going for our final knight design. We want something that looks a lot more like that, but this is just going to give us a rough outline of where we can draw within. And then we're going to grab the sketch tool and we're going to drag it onto this rough outline we made. And we are going to get designing. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this. I'm going to change my snap grid to 1 millimeter and I'm going to drag it back on so that hopefully when I drag it on, it will line up a little bit better than it did last time. Yeah, that's a little bit better. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and we're going to go back and we're going to look at our reference image one more time. So we come out and swoop up and then down for the snout slash head and then around and back. Interesting thing to note is this juts off more in the back than it does in the front. So we might think about replicating that or we might not. We'll see. So we're going to go back to TinkerCAD and we're going to start probably start right here. And we'll go up and we'll go out like that original sketch. And then we'll just throw some points here that will definitely change later just to get some points over there. And then we'll come up and we'll start going back for the head and then back again and then up and then out for the ear, something like that, and then come back around for the back of the neck. And then remember, if we want to, we can go out a lot further. So actually, I'm going to go out further and I'll fix that weirdness I just created later. And we'll come back in, go back down, and connect back to our original points. Obviously, this looks kind of like a knight, but not not perfect at all, so we're gonna edit this. So we're gonna come click this tool, and now we've got all of our individual points we can change. First, I think I'm actually gonna start a little bit closer, and then we're definitely gonna start with curving some things out because I don't love how sharp this whole design is at the moment, and I think I can have a little bit more space in here, maybe. Yeah, we're gonna go for that. Maybe a little bit more to the side. And we'll definitely also apply a curve here and a curve here that we can mess with a little bit maybe later. But I want something that does an interesting swoop transition here without being too overdone. Maybe do this. So again, this is a preference thing. You kind of just have to play with it until you decide you like how it looks. But you can try to just go up and around moving points again. Go ahead and change your snap grid based on how precise and finicky you want to be. I would definitely suggest curving out this mouth area because I feel like it looks really weird flat. But again, of course, that's up to you. You can use this single line curve feature, but I prefer the double line. I think it just gives you a lot more control in an interesting way. But of course, that is a personal preference thing. We're going to kind of flatten this out a little bit. You can actually probably get rid of this point, so I'm going to come to this little plus and minus, and I'm just going to hover over the point I want to get rid of and click it. And that will get rid of it. And I'll go back to the little arrow, and that will allow me to continue moving things around. I'll do something like this. We can bring the ear up a little bit more, make that a little bit more pronounced. So now we're starting to get the front of the shape to look interesting. The back still looks like a mess. Yeah, maybe we'll move that back a little bit, and then we can move all of these points out so that hopefully we can recover this bizarreness that came and happened over here. Maybe even a little bit more like that. Yeah, okay, so that's starting to look like a knight. I think I'm going to curve this part in a little bit more, and then maybe even a little bit more. And then, actually, I'm going to change my snap grid back to 1mm so I can get these guys to all snap in a line with each other, which is going to be difficult otherwise. So that I can have pretty flat, and I'll bring this point down, and that will be the beginning of our curve. So I'll zoom in, and we'll just start curving that a little bit. And then, of course, we'll make this one a curve, change our snap grid back so I can have some more precise control. Reselect that point, zoom in, do some curving, just make things more interesting. Same thing with this point. Again, personal preference thing. You do whatever you want. It's your night. I just feel like this is something that looks good. So once you're done, again, you don't have to conform to this box. This was just to get you and give you an idea of scale without having to literally like measure from point to point and figure out all the math and add that all up. So now we're going to hit finish sketch. Again, if you see it extruded and you're like, I actually really don't like how that neck bit works out because it looks like he has a weird lump there, you can of course go back in, select your thing, select the arrow, and go ahead and flatten that out or change whatever you want to, and then click finish sketch. Once you're done, go ahead and delete the cube. You probably do want to make sure that your knight is about the right scale because sometimes things get finicky. So I'm going to set that back to 10. I'll leave this at 21, but I'm going to get rid of that extra 0.01 just for cleanness sake. And then if you like how everything looks, you don't want to edit either of these anymore, you can select both of them and then of course align them in X and Y but not Z. And then if something went funky there, you can of course just nudge something over. I'm actually going to nudge my knight over just a little bit because I want the actual knight part to be more to the right. Maybe not that much more to the right, maybe just half a millimeter. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to select both. I'm going to hit Union Group, and that will group your knight into one shape. And now you're ready to 3D print it. So what you can do is you can select it, you can hit Export, STL, and then once that STL downloads, you can go ahead and bring that into whatever slicing software you like to use. So just drag this into whatever slicing software you're interested in using. So that's the end of the tutorial about how to make a chess knight in TinkerCAD. If you're interested in a full beginner TinkerCAD course, I do have one coming out in the next few months. So if you want to get on the wait list / get a discount code when it does come out, go ahead and sign up for the wait list, which is in the description of this video, and I'll send you out a pretty significant discount code when the course goes live. Also, if you're an educator, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to talk to you about how you can use my course in your classroom. Anyway, that's it for today. See you next time.